The Biden administration's skinny budget should release soon for fiscal year 2022. It'll include top-line numbers for defense spending. Budget watchers expect that number to stay flat over the next few years. Mark Cancian, senior advisor of the International Security Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He's writing about whether 2021 could be the last year of growth for the military budget. Mark, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. My main takeaway from your work is this. As you write it, full view will not be available until the administration publishes a new national security strategy and the national defense strategy, likely in January or February 2022. An accurate timeline, how does that impact the way that we should think about the potential budget between now and then?
Well, administrations typically get their full strategy out after about a year. The Trump administration did that. The Obama administration did that. But we'll get some insights into where they're going in the FY 2022 budget, which will come out maybe at the end of April, beginning of May.
You write in this work about each of the branches and the potential impact that the budget will have on those branches. Is there one of the five that you write about that strikes you as particularly outstanding in either what you expected to see and it complying with that expectation, or what you expect to see that's very dramatically different than what people are expecting?
Yes, I think that each one of the services is going to have its challenges. Probably at the top of the list is the Army. Many budgeteers and strategists look to cut Army end strength to fund other priorities, particularly advanced technologies to compete with China in the Western Pacific. The Army Chief of Staff has been aggressively making the argument that the Army has a role in the Western Pacific with its land-based long-range fires and missile defense and global logistics capabilities. Nevertheless, it's going to be a tough sell.
You write in this work, Mark, if Army end strength is squeezed as hard as many people expect, then Army redesign and modernization will slow considerably. What's the implication of that, do you think, for the big six modernization priorities that the Army has set out? Or might those even change completely based on the fact that that was a Trump administration construct?
I think there are going to be two tensions here. First, the Army will want to hang on to as much force structure as it can. Traditionally, it's done that. The Army Chief of Staff has said that he thinks that the force structure, the regular Army, should be at about 500,000. It's now at about 485,000. And as the Army tries to do that with a tighter budget, it's going to have to squeeze modernization. It had been looking to field many of these new programs in the mid-2020s. Those will likely have to be pushed out. Further, there's going to be a tension on the strategy side for the Army. That is, that some of the programs that the Army would prioritize, for example, a replacement for the Bradley fighting vehicle and future vertical lift, might not resonate with strategists who are looking at the Western Pacific. They might put missile defense, long-range fires, and long-range logistics higher up.
For all of the reasons that you're listing and for other strategic reasons that we've discussed on this program over the last number of years, the Navy is expected to be a big winner in whatever happens moving forward, at least strategically. How would you expect to see that play out in the budget process, Mark?
Yeah, the Navy had widely supported plans to grow to 355 ships in the Trump administration, but it was never able to articulate an affordable plan to do that. Today, there are about 298 ships. The Biden administration will set a new shipbuilding plan and target. It might end up in the 320s. This new plan will likely look like a smaller version of what Secretary Esper described at the end of the Trump administration, which emphasized submarines, unmanned ships, and new classes of smaller vessels. But unlike Esper and many strategists, the Navy has been emphatic that it doesn't want small carriers, but might accept a smaller carrier force.
The Marine Corps, General Berger, when he became the commandant, laid out a vision for the Marine Corps that you refer to, Force Design 2030. What's the possibility of Force Design 2030 becoming reality, at least from a budget perspective, if budgets continue to flatten or shrink?
General Berger articulated a vision to restructure the Marine Corps to focus on island operations in the Western Pacific. And this is consistent with the strategy and where many strategists want to go, so it's likely to be supported. However, the Marine Corps also identified offsets, which from a budget point of view is commendable. but it might lose that money because the budget's coming down. The Marine Corps also risks irrelevance in other theaters because of its focus on the Western Pacific.
We have about a minute left, Mark. You do a service, I think, to readers by focusing not just on the military branches as separate entities, but also on special operations, civilians, and contractors. What are the implications there, and what should those organizations watch as they look at these skinny budgets coming out, especially the contracting community?
Yeah. Special Operations Command, their military service in all but name. They've been growing steadily over the last 20 years. I expect that to continue. Their challenge is going to be to maintain quality as they continue to expand, and also to show how they're relevant to great power conflict, not just counterterrorism. For contractors, there'll probably be some effort to squeeze contractors. The Democrats have very often done that. But as military forces get smaller, there'll be a lot of pressure to execute government activities in other ways, and contractors are able to step in there. And that includes not only contractors back in the United States, but also overseas contractors. Those have become essentially a permanent part of our force structure.
Mark Cancian, thanks very much for joining me. As always, great analysis.
Thanks for having me on the show.